Good afternoon, everyone, and firstly, thank you very much to State Government for the invitation to speak this afternoon, and thank you again to my fellow speakers as well. It's been absolutely invaluable to learn a little bit more about your businesses and your insights, so thank you. When considering today's audience and presentation topic, I thought to myself, okay, you've got about 10 minutes to sum up the who, what, when, where and how for the McLaren Vale Grape Wine and Tourism Association and how this fits in with collaboration. But whilst considering this, it struck me that if I was going to show you how multi-sector collaboration in regional South Australia can and does work, it would be beneficial to provide you with some details regarding the association in general, a reverse engineering somewhat, if you will. So who are we? As the name might suggest, the association is the peak representative body for three major industry sectors: grape, wine and tourism. This equates to approximately 125 wineries, including just over 75 cellar doors, just over 350 grape growers and just over 100 tourism and associated operators. In totality, Grape Wine and Tourism represents over 500 businesses which range from small to medium enterprises, as well as some large ASX multinationals. We estimate that the total value of the three sectors in our region is just over $400 million. The complex nature of Grape Wine and Tourism can be summarised succinctly as a not-for-profit, multi-sector, industry representative, member-based, incorporated association. That's as succinct as you're going to get from me. Given the diversity of who we represent, it's clear to see that our audiences and circles of influence are also quite broad. The association speaks to both domestic and international audiences, whether they be general public or tourists, trade and media, or key stakeholders and industry partners. However, our primary and most important audience is our members, and I'll come to this point shortly. So what do we want? We want nothing other than for our region to be recognised globally as a diverse and exciting wine region known for its excellence and sustainability. This may be excellence in what we do, in our food offering, in our tourism offering, in our wine offering, in our experiences and even in our relationships. We want to ensure the long-term sustainability of the grape, wine and tourism sectors in the McLaren Vale region and to promote the McLaren Vale brand locally, nationally and worldwide. So what do we do to achieve this? The association executes a multitude of marketing and promotional opportunities, as well as industry development and programs for the grape, wine and tourism sectors, which aims to improve both individuals and businesses, upskilling if you will. In addition, the association consults with members and with local, state and federal government, including government agencies such as PERSA or SATC. We also work closely with regional, state, national and industry bodies such as Wine Australia and education providers like all three that are represented today. When were we established? McLaren Vale Grape Wine and Tourism's origins began when the McLaren Vale Winemakers Group and the McLaren Vale Grape Division of the South Australian Farmers Federation joined together in the early 2000s, but prior the Winemakers Group had been in existence for nearly 50 years. The addition of the tourism sector followed shortly after. So how do we operate and how are we structured? The association has somewhat of a complex structure to its organisation, but it is an organisational structure which works. We have a volunteer board of directors which encompasses 10 sector representatives, 4 from grape, 4 from wine and 2 from tourism, as well as an independent chair, our former Health Minister, the Honourable John Hill. Within the board of directors exists the Audit and Risk Committee, which meets on a quarterly basis to assess the operations and finances of the association. I manage a small team of 7 direct reports, which consist of 3 permanent employees and 4 contractors, and these positions cover everything from marketing and communications, industry development, sustainability, finance and administration. In addition to the 7 employed staff, there are 11 committees and working groups, which also directly report to me and consist of member representatives who volunteer their time, skills and experience for the betterment, I suppose, of grape wine and tourism initiatives and programs. And finally, how are we funded so that we can operate? The association is primarily funded through 2 income streams. One is the grape and wine levy, which is effectively compulsory, yet variable due to vintage variation. The other is the tourism and associate membership fee, which is optional and a fixed annual fee. In addition, the association accelerates its income streams through applicable grants and funding, as well as some events and small sponsorships. So now you know a little bit more about grape wine and tourism, you're probably thinking, great, you've told us the who, what, when, where, and how you do it, but perhaps you should have started with this from the start. Why did you do it? Why did we initiate multi-sector collaboration and how did we do it? Both are great questions. In brief, and when summarised, you can clearly begin to appreciate the complex nature of multiple competing and complementary interests of 3 industry sectors. For example, the prerogative of a grape grower is to grow quality grapes that attract a high price per tonne. The prerogative of a wine producer is to produce great wine but pay the lowest price per tonne effectively. Tourism benefits from both the grape and wine sectors, as well as provides a valuable conduit and a value add to the industry and our region. Financially, the funding structure skews in favour of grape and wine. However, the economic output of our region is strongly embedded in tourism. So unlike an ASX listed company, money is not the primary motivator. McLaren Vale is agriculturally focused and regionally located. Our region is therefore somewhat limited to its exposure and access to infrastructure, which enables stronger business and investment. I would like to note though that compared to some of the other regions represented here today, the tyranny of distance and somewhat naturally smaller workforces is certainly not as impactful in our region, and we're very much strongly supported by state government too. Clearly, there are gains to be made through improved economies of scale in efficient and effective administration, not just for the association as an entity, but for the members it represents. Similarly, there are gains to be made through size. The greater the size, the greater the influence generally, and the greater the share of voice. However, despite all of these highlights, challenges and opportunities, they were not the defining catalyst for why the association pursued collaboration in its ultimate sense. In truth, it is because all of these sectors recognise the value of brand McLaren Vale, and that if increasing the value is in the interests of all members, individuals and businesses, then the success of all industry sectors, our members, including their businesses, is critical to collaborate because there is greater value and equity to be generated through collaboration. So suddenly asking why causes the who, what, when, where and how to become a different set of parameters. For example, instead of asking who, meaning who do we represent, we ask who could we be working with, or who might be the right individuals or groups to help propel our common interest forward. And again, instead of asking what and referring to what do we do, we ask what would success look like for all of our region and our sectors. Conversely, what are our likely challenges? Now, I won't take you through sort of another version of the who, what, when, where and how of McLaren Vale for our association, but I will state that the how, or our roadmap to success, and most importantly with our members, required ongoing successful collaboration and consultation to ensure strong relationship development and trust, as well as to improve each sector's understanding of what successful outcomes and the agreed united purpose would look like. It requires a group of individuals that can look beyond their own self-interest with somewhat of humility and honesty to identify where the value is and where it can be generated, almost in a sense of pre-competitive collaboration. So what were our challenges and opportunities? Once we had identified our united purpose, there were a number of necessary meetings that followed which tackled the reality of collaboration. How would we be funded, and how would each group commit financially or by way of resources? What would be the most effective and efficient resourcing structure within the available budget? And how would we determine, most importantly, what we would continue to do, and again, what we wouldn't continue to do? Ultimately, McLaren Vale Grapevine and Tourism Association collaborates for a common focus and interest, increasing the value and the equity of brand McLaren Vale. Recognising this and reviewing this was and still is important to the success and function of our association and our region today. Thank you.